Good morning.
Everybody. Good morning.
I had a thought, for good or ill. I had a thought, and I wrote it down in language that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to break out accurately, but I'm going to give it a try. We have to start in what I want to talk about by talking about the senses, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, tasting, smelling, all the different aspects of sensitivity of the body, the different sensations that the body experiences, and of course, the cognitive senses, the sense of thinking, remembering, all of that. Everything, everything that we experience through the senses. Without senses, removing all six senses or however many senses you wanna list, because there are many. If you removed all those senses, there would be no experience of any kind. There would be no thinking, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, seeing. None of it would be occurring without senses. And the activity at the senses is called contact. There is contact that occurs, and the phrase often heard in Buddhist languages, at the sense door, which I think is a nice little phrase. There is contact at the sense door. The contact between um, and that's where we kind of get caught. What is it that there is contact between? We're taught growing up to objectify the world, to turn everything in the world into objects. This is an object. This is an object. It's an object. And as an object, it's not me. It's not mine. It's outside me. It's outside mine. That's okay. But if it's the object, then I become the subject. I become the one who gets to lift the bowl, play with the bowl, do whatever I want with the bowl. The bowl has no agency. I have all the agency in the world. So, this bowl, uh, considered lifeless. It hurts to say that. Sorry. You are not lifeless. I'm just using you as an example. Um, the bowl considered lifeless, and we, the subject of everything, we're free to do whatever we want with that bowl. We can throw it out the window, throw it in the garbage, use it to ring for meditation sits. We can do anything we want. We can sleep with it. When we see objects as that which we could do whatever we want with, What happens when the object slips from a bowl to a plant or an animal? Are they also objects? Well, I think that generally, yes, that's what we do. When we plant different plants, when we trim the branches and mow the lawn, when we pick flowers and put them in a vase, how often do we pause just before we're doing it, and as we're doing it, and say, you are a living being. We are connected. Is it okay with you if I clip you and bring you in the house and put you in a vase? Not often. Some of us sometimes. Some of us, most of us, I think, hearing that think, yeah, that's a really good idea. But what happens if it spreads from flowers and trees to animals? What if we can put poison out to kill the raccoon that comes to our house every day? Or what if we live with a cat or a dog? Are they objects? Certainly there are people who treat them as objects. And what about human beings? Are human beings also objects if they're not me? This experience of identifying everything as an object, of objectifying the world itself. Oh, it's wrong. I think I wanted to say that. It's wrong. It's just wrong. It should not be done this way. These are not objects. It's alive, just as we are. Certainly other people, certainly the dogs and cats and other animals, certainly the plants are all alive. But this bowl is also alive. This bowl is alive. Why is this bowl alive? I choose to see it as alive because as long as I see everything as alive, I don't slip into discriminating dead or alive, inanimate or animate. I see everything as living, everything. And then to the degree that I am able, I care for everything that I make contact with. What is making contact? Well, contact with this bowl, if I look over here, I see it. There's an I in there. That's interesting. I see it. I see it. Oops, it. I'm objectifying. Oh, I. Aren't we always taught that the I is like an oops? That there's something more rich and complex and wonderful occurring than this sense of I, the sense of me. So if I'm not seeing it, if it's not I see it, what is occurring? What is occurring? Well, the answer is contact. Contact is occurring. And what is contact? It's when two sentient beings, I'm going to use that term, including the bowl, because I explained why. Two sentient beings are dancing with each other. They form a relationship with each other. There can be no seeing of the bowl without the bowl. And the bowl has its own life. The bowl started as various metals mixed together, and then shaped, and then tuned, and hammered, and becoming and becoming and becoming. This bowl has a history, has an existence that goes back, if you go back to the rocks that were melted to create this bowl. How old were those rocks? Right? This bowl has a life. I have a life. Through sight, we meet. Through sound, hearing, we meet. Right? Through touch, we meet. That's contact. Contact is the meeting and the birth of a connection, of a relationship. And that meeting and connection and that relationship is not mine. It's ours. But it's not even ours because, I'm an animal that was born. Maybe it's a relationship between my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother and the rocks of the earth. Maybe we're just like, temporal intermediaries. We're in this form at this moment, making contact, but the contact is so much richer. All of my ancestors making contact with the earth. Contact. Contact is so complex, so rich, so wonderful, so not to be taken for granted, so not to be ignored, not to be ignorant of the nature of contact. When contact occurs, every single time contact occurs, arising with the contact is the experience of the contact as being either pleasant or unpleasant, or neither. Neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And I like to think of pleasant and unpleasant as the contact rises to a degree of stimulation that there is attending to it, even on the subtlest level. That the neither pleasant nor unpleasant is contact that isn't stimulating enough to even generate a feeling tone, a sense of pleasant or unpleasant. When there is pleasant contact, we by habit, by nature, choose to want that pleasant contact. We're glad it's there. We like pleasant. And we very quickly slip into, oh, I want this to last. I want this to stick around. I want. I want. In saying that, it is not to say that making contact with, or in other words, a relationship between two living beings forms. That's contact. And it's pleasant. It's fine to experience pleasure, happiness, joy in contact with the pleasant. If we would only leave it there, and when the next contact happens, let's say the initial contact is with a sound that's pleasant, birds singing, and the next contact is with a thought that maybe the thought is, I don't get to hear that often enough. Right? Now the thought is unpleasant. In each case, when the pleasant bird singing occurs, we wish it would continue. Not necessarily the bird singing, but definitely the sense of pleasant. We crave it to be the existence that we actually live in. The unpleasant thought, we crave for it to disappear, for us to be separate from it, for that relationship between the two beings, the thought and the thinker, that relationship. We want it to dissolve, to disappear. We crave to not exist in that world where the unpleasant is the experience. These are called often, greed, hatred, lust, aversion. Greed and lust is the desire for things that are not present to be present, or the desire for things that are present, that are pleasant, to remain frozen, stuck. Call this clinging, grasping. We want to hold on to the pleasant. That's greed. We like and find something pleasant. Lust arises, the desire for more. It's not enough. There's no contentment. More. Come on, more. I want more. This is lust. Aversion is a beautiful bird. Why am I thinking about, I don't hear that enough? Now we're getting into hatred. We go from aversion, I don't like that I don't hear birds more often, to hatred. I hate that, and then there you go. You hate the world for the way it is. You hate yourself for the way you are. And that hatred leads to the desire for those unpleasant experiences to not exist. That's a little difficult when the unpleasant experience has now been identified as the world or as me, wanting that not to exist. And when we want something not to exist, or when we want something to continue to exist or to begin existing when it's not currently present, delusion arises. We build a sense, a contact with thoughts mostly, with stories, with the sense of, I would hear more bird song maybe if I put out more feeders. That seems a waste. I should really plant bushes that the birds would really love. And oh, but that would cost a lot of money, maybe more than I really should afford. I should pay more attention to how I'm spending money. What am I doing spending money on this and that when I could be buying a bush that would bring birds and then I would be happy? We get into these whole things. All of this is taking place where contact occurs. You could call it the contact boundary, the place where contact is occurring, where there is a particular hearing occurring, or seeing occurring, or thinking occurring, or bodily experience occurring. At that contact boundary. And because we have a practice, and because our practice is mindfulness, we pay attention at least some of the time. Probably a lot more than well, let's just say a lot. We really do pay attention a lot. And when we notice the arising of greed and lust, when we notice the arising of aversion and hatred, when we notice the arising of these stories that go off where they go, or these like fantasy bubbles of what could be, what shouldn't be, what might have been, what should have been, what could be, what might be, all of these like stories that are not exactly what's happening now. In fact, they're not happening now at all. They're just delusions. We notice these things. And in many cases, we want greed, hatred, and delusion to go away. We want to be free of greed, hatred, and delusion. We want them to no longer occur. That's very sweet. Go for it, right? Go for it. No more greed, no more hatred, no more delusion. Do whatever you can. And instead of greed, experience abundance. Instead of hatred, experience the oneness of all living beings. Instead of delusion, rest in not knowing. Rest in not knowing. You don't need to make up. You can just not know. I think we actually do this a lot. I think we're really skillful in that we do this a lot. That when we notice and feel greed and lust arising, being present, being really active, we think something along the lines of, let's do the opposite. Let's let this go. Let's move on to something different. Let's be somewhere else. And maybe for a period of time, as we move our attention and we become conscious of these skills that of letting go of greed, we do. We let go of greed, at least for a moment. And then the greed asserts itself again. And then, we sort of have a moment. We understand the empty nature of self. There's no need for greed. Everything is. The universe is abundant. Life is abundant. We don't need anything other than what is present. And then the greed shows up again. And there becomes like an overarching boundary that those two are like doing this with each other, or doing this with each other, maybe doing this with each other. Back and forth. This is the greed, this is the not greed. And, you shift, you're wrestling, you're working, you're deeply developing at this contact boundary, at this place where the greed and the abundance meet. So much of our inner work, so much of our work in the world takes place where there feels like there's a conflict between greed and not greed, aversion and not aversion, delusion and not delusion, between what we see as good and what we see as bad, what we want to cultivate, what we want to allow to dissipate. That place, that seesaw, that push and pull, that's the place all the work happens. That's the work that this practice, it's right there. It's right at that place. When you slip into, I wish I was different than I am, it's often that there's that dance occurring, that there's this habit energy, this getting caught, this craving and clinging around greed or aversion or delusion. And it's really present. And there's some clarity and a sense of abundance and equanimity and not knowing. And you can't seem to disappear the one you wish to disappear and live only in the one you wish to live only in. Of course you can't. That's not real. What's real is this. What's real is that that's the place that the work of the practice occurs, right at that boundary, at the boundary of greed and not greed, of aversion and not aversion, of delusion and not delusion. All of our practice occurs right at that boundary where the two are dancing with each other. compassion is the most significant quality to develop in that space. Compassion begins with clear seeing, with knowing, this is the work that occurs at the contact boundary. This is where the knowing and the not knowing. This is where the needing something else and the abundance. This is where everything is and I'm separate. These are where they dance with each other. They teach each other. This is where the practice develops. And the only way to stay there with a clarity of vision, with an open heart, is through compassion. Compassion combines the clear seeing that this is what is occurring. And this is exactly what I'm working so much. This is why I have a practice. So I can be aware of, conscious of this dance between greed and non-greed, aversion and non-aversion, delusion and non-delusion. I can experience this dance directly and experience the joy that arises knowing this is the practice I'm choosing to do. This is the development I so am focused on. Here it is, alive in this moment. Ouch, by the way. That's the other part of compassion. That wrestle is not so pleasant sometimes, maybe a lot of the time. That wrestle is difficult. The difficulty comes from wanting. I really want this greed and aversion and delusion to be gone. Oh, get out of here, go away, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Really, you want to be alone? Why would you want to be alone? It's lonely. Oh, wait a minute. Let me try the other side. I want to live in pure abundance. Equanimity is the only reaction I have to anything that occurs. I know nothing. I'm thirsty. No, I can't be thirsty. There's abundance. There's moisture in the air. There's moisture in my body. And besides, thirst is just an experience. I'm equanimous. I don't even know what thirst is. What is thirst? God, I'm really thirsty. Oh, right. You still have a body, don't you? Yeah. My dear abundance, equanimity, not knowing, perfect being. Right. And then a siren goes off somewhere. And a bunch of dogs start barking. And oh God, there it goes. There goes my equanimity. There goes, oh, the abundance. All of these things should be. Yes. Oh. So I can't get rid of greed and aversion and delusion. And I can't live only in abundance and equanimity and not knowing. Instead, I live in the place where those make contact with each other. All the time they're making contact with each other. And that contact is the practice. The contact is the place that we intentionally want to place ourselves. The awareness of greed and not greed. The awareness of aversion and not aversion. The awareness of delusion and not delusion. We want to rest ourselves in that dynamic place, joy arises, ouch arises, compassion, seeing clearly the nature of life itself is like this, always like this, never still, never resolved. There's no closure. We're an endless chain of evolution. We are a dynamic, changing, beautiful, living, conscious system. And systems of systems of systems of systems. There is this, the dynamic push and pull. It is our practice. Through compassion, we can stay there longer. Through understanding that this dynamic is not about me. Even though the whole topic is me, when we're in this internal dynamic, why am I? How did I get here? I want to be. It's all me. It's not really you at all. It's the totality of the entire universe dancing. We're all dancing. Everything is dancing. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful world. I'm sorry it hurts. This is compassion. So let's practice this. Let's practice the dynamic nature of paying attention to what is occurring moment after moment after moment. And resting in compassion. Resting in knowing that this is the nature of the world.